everyone. Welcome into another edition of the East AlabamaWorks Video Podcast. I am Carl Brady, the Workforce Program Manager for East AlabamaWorks. Remember, you can visit us online at eastalabamaworks.com. We're always talking about workforce development. And you know what we do? We work with business and industry throughout Region 2, and we find out what their needs are in the workforce and what they need as far as students who are being educated or trained in certain skills and things like that. And one of the biggest skills out there is the need for students to be learning robotics. If you go into modern manufacturing nowadays, you're going to see a lot of automation and a lot of robots. And we help support that by supporting an organization called BEST Robotics. And we have our own hub here in East Alabama. And I want to introduce you to Abby Howle. Abby works for East AlabamaWorks. And she is our workforce program coordinator, and she also heads up BEST Robotics for us. So Abby, welcome into the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about BEST.
Well, you know, let's just kind of start off with an overview of BEST Robotics and why it's important to the community. As I mentioned, you walk into any modern manufacturing facility, you're going to see a lot of automation and a lot of robots. And this is a way to get kids started early in being interested in robotics.
Yes. So one of my favorite things, Carl, that you actually talk about is whenever we have educator workforce days, when we ask teachers when they go into an industry, if you were run in your school like a business, who is your customer and what is your product? And 9 times out of 10, the teachers will tell you that their customer is their students because that's who they're teaching to in their classroom. And I love how you use the illustration that actually your customer is the industry. Your product is your student. So one of the key things about being an educator and in creating a program right now is that we make sure that we are educating our students and investing in them to create a quality product for our industry. And so, like you said, one of the main things now in industry is automation. So you may not think, well, there's robots in all of our industries, but in all honesty, there is. And whether or not you're actually operating a robot or not, these robots require maintenance and they require technical skills and knowledge of how to operate them. So it's super important these days for kids to understand that that's a part of our world and that needs to be a skill that they learn how to develop if they want to get a high demand, high wage job.
So BEST Robotics is a competition, basically, that allows schools to participate, put together a robotics team within their school, and then they build their own robot. They compete that robot against other schools, and this is a huge program that schools are participating in.
Yes. So BEST stands for Boosting Engineering, Science, and Technology. So BEST is one of many different robotics programs that are offered throughout the U.S., but there's a couple key differences that make BEST special and that make BEST catch the attention of our industry leaders. So BEST actually was brought to East AlabamaWorks by some industry that said, hey, this is a great program. We think that we need to be doing this as in our workforce region. And so, as we always do, we listen to the industry. And when we started getting into BEST, I was not familiar with the program, but I learned that it's not just robots. So these students are essentially given a real world problem. So either ocean pollution, the world loss of a power grid, illness, so the spread of infection, robotic surgery, different things like that. They're given a real world problem and they are tasked with organizing themselves as a company in order to create a product or robot that is the solution to the real world problem. So a lot of these situations may be an instance that it's too dangerous for an actual human to go in and perform this job. So they are just tasked with designing a robot that can complete the task safely and efficiently as well as other aspects of an actual company. So they are required to create an engineering notebook, which details their design process, why they chose to do certain things on their robot, build it a certain way, choose the functionality of it, detail their trial and error process. Why did they use this product instead of this product for a certain part? So they have to be very methodical in explaining to you why they chose to develop their product in the way that they did. They're also tasked with marketing that product to you. So they will have to do a marketing presentation and talk about cost analysis, warranty information, repairs, anything like that you would expect from a normal business to business transaction. Then they are required to create an exhibit booth, so like a trade show booth. They can give away swag or different products. They have to have physical marketing materials that they can hand out to you. And they have to be able to answer questions from people that pass by that exhibit booth. So they have to be able to explain everything to you about their product. And a lot of them will actually have their robot in that booth and show you how it works, operate it, and different things like that. Then they also are required to do the actual field performance of the robot to show that the robot actually does what it is designed to do. The really cool thing about BEST is that they are not given robotics parts to just put together. So it's not like robot Legos where they get all the parts and they fit together. Everybody's looks exactly the same. They are given raw materials. So they're given PVC, plywood, Cat 5 wire, polycarbonate board. They are given nails and screws and all different kinds of material, and they have to completely manufacture their robot absolutely from scratch. So everybody's robot ends up looking differently, and it's such a cool thing as a hub when you actually get to competition, because when we put those kits together, we have no idea what they'll turn out as. And then when you get to competition, you look at the different aspects of the robot and you see that these kids have 3D printed something, or they will show you their CAD design and how they have cut this with a CNC machine. It's just these kids are so smart. So they have experience with every aspect of an industry. So even if you're a child that is not into robots, you could care less about programming, but you love marketing and getting up in public speaking, you can be involved in BEST. So what I love about BEST as a program in general is that you can capture those kids that are not necessarily your techie kids are super into robotics, and you can get everybody involved.
Yeah, with being able to do the marketing and the sales and all of those other things, you can get kids involved that are from the art department or from the business department of the school, and to put on your robotics team. So it provides a wide range of experiences for those kids.
Oh, yes. And they love it. They're so smart. So we went to a competition last year and we're walking around the exhibit booths, and they will hand out marketing materials. And one team was handing out little shopping bags that had their team number and their logo on it. And I didn't really understand. I was like, oh, okay, like it's just a bag. But everybody else was handing out things that would go inside of the bag. So their team that had the bag was getting marketed all over the arena, while everybody else's stuff was hidden inside that bag. And I'm like, these kids are genius.
Yep, absolutely. We've mentioned the competition and the booths for the marketing and things like that, and that's what a traditional BEST competition looks like. And last year we partnered with Jacksonville State University, and we had a huge competition at Pete Matthews Coliseum, and it was quite a day. But things are going to look different this year because of COVID-19. So talk about the traditional way that BEST is held, and what changes are going to take place this fall.
Right. Okay. So a traditional BEST season is 6 weeks long. So we call it the 42 days of BEST. So teams have no materials. They have no idea what their game or real world problem is they have to solve until the day of kickoff. And from that time, they have 6 weeks to the competition. So a normal BEST season has a kickoff, which is where we would unveil the game field and what the real world problem is and explain to them what their robot is expected to do. So, for example, last year there was a world power outage and their robot was expected to restore power lines, remove debris, etc. So they would find out what their problem is, what their robot is expected to do, and get all of their materials all at the same time so that it's an even playing field. Then they have 6 weeks until the week of competition where they would have a day to come on the field and actually practice. So up until this point, many of the teams have not even put a robot actually on the field. And then they would have a day to do their marketing presentations that week to a panel of judges, and then they would have the competition day, which is where they would compete head to head, and they would set up their booths and do interviews and different things like that. So since the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a lot of questions about how we would be able to deliver a best season to our students this year. So nationally, the BEST organization came up with different options for hubs, so it can be decided on a local level. So there's always the option of a socially distanced normal competition season, but there's a lot of factors that play into that, what our venues would allow, what our schools would be doing if they were allowed to have outside field trips and different things like that. So we talked with all of our schools, we talked with our hub leadership, and there's an option for us to do a classroom competition or a school competition, which is the direction that we have decided to go for this year. So essentially, the students would still be given all of their raw materials. They would still construct a robot, but each school would get a quarter of the game field for their school. So each school is going to have a game field. So if we had 12 teams, all 12 teams are going to have a quarter of the game field, which is provided by us, the hub. And they will actually.
And when you say quarter of a game field, the game field itself is made so that 4 robots or 4 teams can compete at one time to kind of speed things along and under normal circumstances. So all they need is just a quarter of the full game field because that's all they'll be playing on technically anyway.
Yes, absolutely. So they would have their own portion of the field and they would do their game or do their robot performance via live stream and be scored. So their marketing presentation would be done via Zoom. Their interviews for their booth would be done via Zoom. They're still required to turn in an engineering notebook electronically. And then instead of their actual physical exhibit booth, they are going to create a content-based website to be judged to take place of their booth to do all of their marketing presentations and be able to answer questions about that. So it's really neat that they're still able to construct a robot, that they are going to be able to have every aspect of a normal BEST season just within their own team so that they are not physically interacting with other teams and we are able to keep everybody safe. And so we feel like that this is going to be a great option for them because they're having to utilize different technology, which all of us are having to do right now. I haven't had an in-person meeting since March, so we are all having to get used to the Zoom life. So we think it's really cool to give our students that opportunity as well to get them familiar with different types of meeting technology. And honestly, these are the best students that we have in the whole state. Our best students are. And we are excited just to see how they're going to adapt to the difference in this season. And we know that they're going to do a great job. But there's also an option if their school closes and they for some reason they have an outbreak, their school has had to shut down. The national organization has created an online hub that displaced teams can join and do the entire BEST competition completely virtual. So in that scenario, they would not be physically constructing a robot. They would be doing their robot performance online. They would have to do a little bit more programming. There's some additional requirements that they would have to do. But if a teacher chooses to keep their BEST team engaged, even if they had to go completely virtual, there are ways that we can connect them and that they can still make that happen.
So how does this affect the competition part of things? Normally our hub winners would then go to Auburn for the statewide competition and things like that. So when we have hub winners, what is their next step? Since there are so many different ways they're going to be doing this.
So this year for 2020, there are not going to be any regional playoff competition. So there will not be one in Auburn. There will not be one in Texas and Denver like normally. So essentially this year, once they get through our hub competition, that's it for them. So it was very important to us that even though they will not be moving forward, that we still award them and we still have a best season, because right now our number one goal is to try to provide some sense of normalcy for the students, because nothing is normal about their school experience right now. And really, there's probably not anything normal about their lives right now. So it was very important to us to continue with some type of a competition, because there are schools that participate with us that have no sports programs. And BEST Robotics is like their football season. This is what those kids live for. So it only affects them in terms that there's nowhere to move forward from this. But we talked with all of our teachers and told them, listen, there's no pressure on this season. There's no pressure to beat such and such team and to be one of the top 4 that gets out. Use this as your building year. Use this as an opportunity for your students to get better at their programming, or better at their machine operations, or better at their public speaking, and really take their feedback from the judging last year and use this to further develop your students and help them hone in on those skills. So there's no pressure to try to beat each other. This year, we're all just trying to get better.
And you mentioned that some of the schools that don't have sports programs, this is like their sport for them. It is fun to watch, and it kind of sad that we won't be having the in-person competition this year, because these schools, for a robotics competition, they bring cheerleaders, they bring parents and other students, and they have cheering sections, and it gets loud.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I guess a lot of people would think a robotics competition would not be fun, but these best competitions get lively sometimes.
Oh, yes. They have like mascot dance offs. And one team last year even brought their drum line, and they were sitting in the bleachers at JSU just like beating their drums. They get so into it. One thing that's really cool about running a hub is that you can have optional awards. So we can kind of choose, hey, we're going to offer this year. It's not mandatory, but we'll give you an award on it if you choose to do it. So this year, since they will not be meeting in person and they do get so excited about it and they show their enthusiasm, we are going to add in the option to make like a hype video, so that the team can make their own like pump up motivational video, make it on YouTube or however they choose, and send it in to us, and we'll judge it on like the best hype video. And we're going to show those hype videos to the other teams so that they can still get that sense of best excitement for the competition for game day.
So again, with it being a virtual competition, all of the schools that are participating are getting a webcam system. And so they will do their competition and their timed routine through webcam for everybody to see.
Yes.
So how are the teachers in the schools? What are their thoughts? What has their response been so far with all the changes that we're having to make?
They're happy to be doing it. And this year, just because of the extenuating circumstances, their season has been extended by 3 weeks. So they will have 9 weeks instead of the traditional 6 weeks. And again, The teachers honestly are what make BEST happen, because it is a huge undertaking as a teacher to make it happen. So you don't do BEST as a teacher unless you just absolutely love it. And these teachers that we have love it. They're just happy to be able to continue to do it. So I've talked a lot of them, and they're like, honestly, we're just happy to be able to continue to do this and again have some sense of normalcy and participate in some way. And they get 3 extra weeks, so it's a little easier for them to breathe, not thinking about having to stuff it all in 6 weeks.
Right. And because of school situations throughout the region, we've had some schools that would normally participate or not participating. But if there are schools who want more information about BEST Robotics in East Alabama, what's the best way to get in touch with you and find out how the schools can participate?
Yeah. So the best thing is just to send me an email. My email is ahowle@eastalabamaworks.com. My contact information is on our East Alabama Works website. And there's a BEST online national registry that you have to sign up through this year since everything is virtual. So if you can just send me an email, I can walk you through the steps to get set up in the registry to get all your team and all your students registered.
All right, Abby, is there anything we've missed? Anything else we need to talk about this morning?
No, just know that if you're an employer and you have a student that comes to you that tells you that they have been and participated in BEST Robotics, know that you are getting the best and the brightest that you can possibly get, because these kids that are involved in BEST are groomed to be the best employees that you can have. They are smart. They know how to work on a team. They are incredibly creative and very hardworking and committed to whatever they do. So just know, if you're an employer and you get a BEST kid, put a star by that one, because they're going to be great for you.
Well, that reminds me too, or if I'm understanding this correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a great opportunity for the industry partners and businesses and employers to get involved with the kids as well, because a lot of the teams like to have mentors or people from the industry who can help the team with their engineering or with some of their ideas, and just basically mentor the team in the process of building their robot. Is that correct?
Yes. So it could be anything from having a mentor in the construction industry because your school doesn't have the equipment that you need to physically cut boards or 3D or anything like that, to you partner with an IT company because you need help with your programming, or you partner with a marketing firm to help your team with public speaking. So no matter what type of an industry you are, there's an opportunity for you to mentor a BEST team or a BEST school. So there's multiple ways that you can get involved. Again, if you're interested in that, if you're an industry and you're like, man, I want to help a school, if you can just shoot me an email, I can connect you with a school that is in our hub that may have a specific need that fits your industry.
All right, sounds good. Well, Abby, thank you for all your hard work on putting the BEST Robotics program together each year for us here at East Alabama Works. And we look forward to seeing how the virtual competition works out this year.
Yes, thank you so much, Carl. You're the best.
Thank you very much, Abby. And folks, thank you for joining us for this edition of the East Alabama Works Video Podcast. Be sure to check out our website to learn more about us, and that is eastalabamaworks.com.